I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. I am Ben Dietrich. Jordan Rodelli is on vacation, but Andrew Kuo does not take days off. Mr. Andrew Kuo, how are you enjoying New York City's second wave?
Hyped, man. I've never been more prepared in my life. I want it more. Been first in New York City, lastly. Can't wait. I'm like 3 millionth on that top list to get that vaccine. Looking up, man.
I have so many beans already soaking for February and March. They are going to be so waterlogged, so soft, so soaked. And then I'm going to show them who's boss.
Are you living in the Beantown? A different Beantown.
We'll talk about the Beantown probably multiple times going forward.
What?
They've got a new ethnic food that everybody's trying.
Oh.
They've got a young journeyman signed to a maximum contract. So there is certainly Beantown content to discuss.
The
but right
Paris
now,
of America. Yeah.
But right now we're talking about New York City and the second wave. Is it here?
Wave number 2, more waves. It is here-ish. I feel like it's around the country more than it is here because we kind of rode that huge crest of that wave the first time, unfortunately.
There was a time when I would check New York City numbers and felt informed. That time is not now. So when de Blasio and Cuomo spar over whether it's 3.5% or 5% in terms of the infection rate of people being tested, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what that actually corresponds to in real numbers. Yeah. I know it's, at this point, I think it is like 1,000 some cases a day, like substantial compared to what it was over the summer, but also not terrifying. It's hard to tell where people are, especially when you go on Twitter or something. Like, is New York a shutdown hellscape, or is it just already shut down?
I was just in Midtown this morning, and it was jammed. Times Square was jammed, man. No, stores were open. The M&M store remains closed. But, traffic was epic. People were rushing off. I saw downtown legend yesterday, Mr. Fong, scurrying across the street. And for people who don't know, this is very niche. But he is the real estate guy to the downtown set. So if you need an apartment, if you need a studio, a recording studio, a silkscreen studio, a painting studio, whatever, you call Mr. Fong, and he kind of is the middleman, apologies, for people, owners of buildings who don't speak English. So in Chinatown, you call Mr. Fong to inquire about a space.
If you've heard of the bar Mr. Fong's, it is named after Mr. Fong, in homage to the man who found them, that prime corner bar area.
Did you ever use Mr. Fong for any sort of real estate inquiry?
No, but a lot of my friends and family members have.
He's a nice guy, man.
Heard nothing but fine things about Mr. Fong.
Yeah.
But right, there's this perception of, New York, the shutdown's coming. It's weird because if you walk around some neighborhoods, it's so dead. Other places, there's more life. But when things shut down at 10, and it's dark, there's just not a lot of hours to really get it in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is desolate in my neighborhood after 9 o'clock. It's just nothing happening. And there's been a little spike of crime because the cops don't seem very interested in doing stuff right now. There's a lot of shadowy kind of feelings, the vibes, the culture in downtown is kind of quiet, and a disheartening, some voices I hear talking about what we should do in New York have been disheartening when they say we can't really do anything that would affect the outcome of like another peak because we all kind of went through it. So unfortunately, there's nothing we can really do effectively now. Whether you believe in antibodies or some sort of immunity, it's like we probably were dealing with this since December. So addressing this next December has a limited effect to it.
I also think there's hopefully a fairly low ceiling on how bad New York can get for a second time.
Yeah, totally.
Just because people live differently, there are not that many opportunities to socialize inside. And even if this is the result of more socializing, more people back at work specifically so, and the opening of indoor dining, etc., I don't see it being explosive in the way that it was before, just because there is an opportunity for that. There was a lot of people griping about those, chuds over in Staten Island, or the chuds in parts of Brooklyn who are throwing 9,000 people weddings on the sly. Then the protests around a sports bar where people flooded the streets. On one hand, yeah, bad idea. Like, let's not do that. On the other hand, I am sympathetic towards people who say, well, if we're getting nothing from the government, then I'm just going to go back to my regular life. I'm sympathetic. I don't agree, but there is an element, a sort of ivory tower element when we say, well, I can work at home and I can live my life indoors for the next couple months. So you're being selfish by wanting to go out and have your sports bar open. I mean, I hear that, but at the same time, like, we have a common grievance here. It is the government doing nothing for anybody. It is the government saying, we're not going to give you any money to stay home, but you also can't open your stupid sports bar in Staten Island. I get it. I get it from from their perspective.
Yeah, my brain is so broken, and like, it's worse. It's worse today than it was when it started. And now that we know what we know, it's like I don't have the same kind of panic, and like, I think it's really disheartening to see our legislators Operation Warp Speed, but it's for originalist judge. But for like DT, your boy DT is wrong. It's wrong 99.9% of the time. But that 1%, but fraction of a 1%, he's right. And when he says something as dumb as like, well, people die of depression, and staying in just really hurts our psyche in general, and that's as dangerous. He's wrong, but he's kind of right. And like, I wish they would actually take action with that. But it's annoying that finally this week we're hearing Pelosi and McConnell being like, okay, stimulus back on the table. I'm like, thanks guys, thanks for all that.
You're right. This has just been, I guess, the luminol at the crime scene of American late capitalism, right? Where it's just like, yeah, no health care for you, no help from the government. It's just an unabashed fuck you from all the powers that be towards the citizens of America. And some people are going to say, that will make me take to the streets and say Black Lives Matter. That'll make other people take to the streets and say Blue Lives Matter. Ultimately, it's kind of the same discontent. We have been abandoned by our government. It's just our method of voicing that outrage is completely different.
Yeah, and I think to me, it's a personnel issue. I believe in our government. In my opinion, and this is kind of a hot.
Wow. Wow. Knicks fan alert. Sorry, go on.
I think this government worked incredibly well for the last 4 years, preventing this dude, this maniac, from flexing too much. Every step of the way, he was getting frustrated that he couldn't do what he wanted to do. And that's a testament to the way things are checked and balanced, whatever. So I think it's a personnel issue because there's certain people in power right now who have different interests than the common interest. And that would be McConnell, Donald Trump, certain senators.
I mean, you could throw in Schumer and Pelosi and Joe Biden
sure.
and Kamala Harris. There's
Sure.
there's no guiding force of the Democratic Party who has any clout that wants to do anything for anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean that there aren't small improvements to make or saying, okay, we're going to get rid of the Muslim ban. Sure, that's a good thing. That's a decent thing to do. I agree. But wholesale changes to really help Americans, there was one guy. There was a guy who was into that. And he's not the one who gets to say what happens.
I fear turning into the type of adult who is like, this government is trash, because I've been around these people my whole life, and they are always the same age, and they always sound the same, and there's some truth to it always, but it feels like someone who's like Lakers baby, and so my question is, as I get to that point where I'm nearing like this government is trash, I'm like, well, what can we do about it? Is there something, or is there not something? And this pandemic was handled poorly, but it's a unique situation, and that's no excuse. But I fear just being like, capitalism, bullshit, and I think it's more complicated than that.
Sure. But I mean, I think we ultimately know that the country's issues are like there are multiple issues that make America and its government such a failure, especially at this juncture. And it may have gone under the radar to a lot of people before it was exposed by COVID, and it was exposed by Donald Trump, and et cetera. But you look in retrospect, I think Obama seems like a nice guy. I was a big supporter. I was excited to vote for him. And on a day-to-day basis, you see him and you're like, oh man, like this guy sucks. This guy absolutely sucks. And I think that's part of us being more aware of the things that the government did, and also us moving leftward. And I don't mean like you specifically. I mean like people who with more discontent towards Obama. Sure, we knew he was a corporate guy, and the drone strikes, and didn't close Gitmo. There were those Libya, right? No, there were plenty of things to be dissatisfied by, but at this point, it just seems like is Obama a monster? Shit, God.
Which is
I
always
like that guy. He loves basketball.
Which is always so weird to me, because I'm such a product of my generation, but liking a president was never really on the table. I liked Obama. I voted for him the first time with fucking gusto, You
just wanted the playlist.
I wanted the March Madness bracket, man. He's like, North Carolina, Duke. Yes, I think Duke. But it is such a thing that's ingrained in my Gen X tranquil brain not to be psyched on presidents or politicians. So when everyone's like, is Obama the coolest president ever? I'm like, well, that's a pretty low bar, but probably not. I don't know, is a lifelong politician ever that cool? No.
Well, you nailed it, though. It's the low bar, because in our lifetimes, how does he stack up with the other presidents that have been around since, I don't know, the 70s? Well, okay, he's better than Nixon. Lyndon Johnson, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter was probably better. He was cool. He was nice. Peanut King. Yeah. But you stack them up.
Clinton was
Bush,
relatable.
Reagan, Clinton. Obama is. Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah.
We can't be like Benjamin Harrison, million dollar Benny. He was way sicker than Obama. I don't know.
I mean, I do love a part of Obama, and I think he is the greatest speaker I've ever heard from a politician, and he is probably the one I will remember my whole life as being someone who got to something close to what people tell me JFK was, and
you're a Woodrow Wilson day one though.
Listen, I'm a John Adams originalist. Adams baby.
Is that about the winter lagers?
Sam. That's Sam.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I mean, I'm not shitting on Obama because I think in terms of presidents, like, he's my favorite. But, I don't really like presidents.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm saying Obama being younger, being a black guy, being someone who was culturally literate, being a phenomenal speaker, all those things.
Was hyped on him, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it led to him feeling like more of a departure than he was. And I think at this point now, with some distance between those moments and now, we see that was the identity politics that have come to define sort of neoliberalism, that it wasn't substance, it was style.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, what do we demand of these people? I mean, the concrete things, right? To do things the way we want them to be done. And I don't know, like, crowdsourcing is kind of an interesting idea in voting, but I don't know, when you're a kid, everyone's like, the end of the Stephon Marbury documentary, which was like pretty amazing, when he's like to the kid in the barber shop, like, no one told you can be president, and the kid was like, no one ever told me that. It was pretty heavy, but then I wanted to jump in my screen and be like, no, it's a terrible job, don't do it. Like, it will eat you alive because you seem like a good kid. I don't know, like, that's not what I would want my friend to aspire to.
Well, yes, the idea that you can be anything you want is distinctly different from saying, I want to be president. Oh, you want to run the world, huh? Okay, psycho.
I know. First run this barbershop. First run the Knicks. That was a great documentary, though. That kind of made me tear up at the end.
Steph, an unheralded king of the early 2000s.
Yes,
I mean,
man.
AI is the god, but Steph does not get enough credit as being a very early scorer distributor from the point guard position. That's really come to define the league, today, with a lot of the guys that we're going to talk about specifically later, like Russell Westbrook and John Wall. Yeah. But Steph was, along with AI, very early as that kind of player who could give you 20 and 10.
Yeah.
And, he's forgotten for reasons that have less to do with basketball than him being a New York City eccentric.
And I was a young man when Steph was in his prime and came to New York, and I learned so much bullshit watching New York kind of destroy this kid who ends up, posting videos of him like weeping. And I'm like, oh, we ruined this great thing. Like, this thing wasn't perfect by any means, but we ruined it. Like, we're just a bunch of jerks. And we live in the jerk store.
America.
And they're running out of us. Yeah. We're their bestseller.
So I took the New York Times little test that you say, how old are you? Where do you live? What is your job? Do you have any pre-existing medical conditions? And it looks like in Kings County, I'm, I don't know, 2,600,000th or something like that in line, maybe more, when it comes to getting the vaccine. We're not getting this thing for a while, huh?
No, I don't think so. And maybe to me, it's okay because it makes sense, because one of these vaccines has to be stored in sub-zero temperatures. It seems like a large task for this to trigger or everything to work out. So I don't expect to get this for maybe like a year. I don't know. I have no way of moving up this line. And I don't think I should. I will stay in longer. I will be safe and hope for the best.
I'm getting that vaccine.
Oh,
yes. By hook or by crook.
Yeah.
I want it more.
You want? Can you just like pay for it? Like, how can you jump this line if you wanted to?
I'm not sure.
Can you drop like a grand?
Well, it's
somewhere?
it's what you said, right? Yeah. That they have to be taken care of in such cold conditions.
One of them, yeah.
I think that's the Pfizer one, I believe.
Pfizer? Marcus Pfizer?
The Marcus Pfizer vaccine.
That question mark tattoo on his neck was fire, man.
Marcus Pfizer.
How was he not a Nick, first of all? Was he a Nick? I don't know.
He might have been at some point.
Yes, he's a Knicks legend. Whatever.
He was a Nick in spirit. But yeah, I think it has to be stored at something like 80 degrees, negative 80 degrees Fahrenheit or something like
wild.
that while it's shipped, and you have to get it to another fridge within.
Yeah, does it depreciate like in 5 minutes or something?
Yeah. But I would presume at some
Icy.
point there will be an opportunity for wealthy people to get it before others.
Yeah.
Presidents lining up. I'll do it first on stage. Yeah. That'll inspire. It's going to inspire a lot of confidence in the voting population. Let me get up there and get that vaccine right away.
Melania offered that service too, right? She's like, I will do this on camera. I'm like, I bet you would. I would too. That's incredible. Getting the vaccine.
It's like, Barack, you don't have a job anymore. You make mixtapes.
Yo, his audiobook, what was like over 20 hours long? And everyone's like, yo, that's a long-ass audiobook, man. How many hours can you talk about U2 for? Well, first, Beautiful Day came out, and it was on my playlist. And it was a pretty excellent song.
So then first, Kendrick Lamar, he comes by the White House.
Chance the Rapper. What a straight shooter that young man is. Yeah, I don't know. I believe this vaccine will probably... The framework around getting it will change probably daily, because it seems like we're getting updates and more options, or by the hour. It's like, oh, Moderna has a new thingamajiggy.
Right. Are we gonna get multiple vaccines?
I think so. We're gonna get like half a dozen, right?
I think right. I'm just saying, are you gonna take them all? Just like load up?
Am I gonna sign multiple power forwards? Okay, it's not just Bobby Portis. It's Julius Randle. Oh, Taj Gibson, welcome to my vaccination garden.
Like at this point, Quo is just, I don't know, like 2/3 vaccine.
It's that culture, that beefed up vaccine culture, man. No,
but do you take multiple vaccines? From my understanding, due to the requirements of the storage, they were saying the ones that have to be kept at like lower temperatures are going to be in cities, and the other ones might go in rural areas just because the distance. But I'm like, can we just get them all?
Yeah,
like give me the Oxford vaccine, give me Pfizer, give me Moderna. Like, just take them all. Like, I want them in a cocktail.
Yeah, and they all work differently and trigger different things in your body. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to have a big board of vaccines, which I can't wait for that. I have my top 10, top 3 big board vaccines.
So now with the second wave, apparently on us, again, I can't gauge it. It's more that it's dark and nothing's happening. So it makes it feel like March, but as soon as the sun comes out, it all seems normal again. But things are looking up for this long, cold winter. Your boys over at Warner.
My dudes. Warner boys.
Your Warner Day Ones.
Warner brother.
Have announced that they are going to be releasing new films on the same day that they will hit the theaters on HBO Max. I was unfamiliar with any of the titles that were mentioned as like premiere ones that would be a big deal.
You mean like Dune or?
I've heard of them, but I'm not like, oh my god, they're doing it with Dune. Like Dune?
I cannot
Holy
wait
shit.
for Dune. Tom and Jerry. But there was that weird DC spinoff with those bad guys, right? The people like those movies with Killer Croc and Will Smith as Will Smith.
I wasn't familiar with any of the films. I've heard the names, of course.
Yeah, there's a few. The whole Tenet rollout. All right, let me ask you this: is Tenet sus? Like, it is so annoying that we can't watch it. And then I felt like such a brat. I was like, how come I can't pay $10 to watch Tenet on my TV? And I'm like, oh, because someone poured their like blood, sweat, and tears into this art thing, and it's just not like available to me on a platter.
I mean, I guess you could take the PATH train out to Jersey.
Are they showing it in Dirty Jersey?
I believe they have theaters open in Jersey.
Damn. It's a wilderness out there. You heard from Tony Soprano?
Are so few people going to Tenet that you could just kind of roll in and be at the theater by yourself? Like wearing a mask in a large theater with like 3 other people seems pretty safe.
I am not scared. I'm pretty scared. I'll wait. But I on my way back downtown to do this perfect pod, I drove by Kips Bay, the movie theater. Will we ever go to another movie in a regular way again? Are they just going to be gone?
Yes.
I mean, AMC decided they may not come back, right? And Lowe's decided they may not come back. And now HBO is premiering movies from Warner Brothers. There will be movie theaters for like posterity, but it'll be like posterity. We're going to be like, this is kind of will be a throwback. There won't be throngs of people going out to see the premiere of like a blockbuster anymore, right?
I believe that's probably true. I mean, the one thing that we've always stuck with is that this is an acceleration. And that was happening to begin with.
That was, yeah.
And we were always questioning, how come you're rolling out movies in theaters first and not everywhere? Imagine how many people would watch it if it aired on pay-per-view that same day. Like, this idea has been floating around in the ether for a decade.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And how did MoviePass not get their tiny yellow hands? Is MoviePass colored yellow? That's what I think it is. But how did they not get their mitts in? Is it red? Basically, I'm thinking of Blockbuster, yellow and blue. But how did, first of all, Blockbuster not get into the streaming thing? But MoviePass, like, they couldn't weasel their way in there. It's high time for MoviePass on our TVs, right?
I mean, we've just recreated cable. It's just, okay, one is HBO, one is Disney, one is Netflix, one is Amazon. Like, now we're just now paying for a more a la carte version of cable. But when you consider that we don't have any choice over what is on each platform, it's basically just traditional cable reinvented.
I cut my cord hoping to save like $10, and I'm now spending $10 more. And happy with the product, but annoyed too.
Yeah, I realize I subscribe to pretty much everything at this point. Not Disney, and maybe most of them. And yeah, it does add up to being exactly the same.
Do you rock with Stars with a Z?
No, but I also don't get, like, I don't have ESPN. I don't have a lot of those cable type of channels. It's like, I have every movie one, I guess.
You should have ESPN just through signing up with like Spectrum or AT&T or whoever you have. But that's annoying because it's a portal from their thing. Anyway, yeah, people were beefing about ESPN most because non-sports fans ended up paying, I forgot the exact number, was it like less than $10 a month on it? But it was why cable bundles were expensive because of Disney.
Yes, we talked about this, I don't know, a couple episodes ago. But that ESPN itself is the reason that, like, you paid $10 a month, even if you never watched the sport.
Yeah.
Now, that money could easily be funneled into Cookies Hoops Patreon subscriptions.
What?
Like 2 of them, one for you, one for a friend. It's just an incredible savings.
Shout out to a person, our old friend, Aviva, who signed up just to get early merch drops. Does not know anything about basketball, but wants that heat.
I mean, smart.
Yeah.
Super smart.
They say it was the perfect sub.
We do have a couple new basketball hats on the site right now.
It's selling out quick, though.
Yeah, there are not too many left. There's one in corduroy with like an orange sort of gold lettering, and there's one in mulberry with a very light pink.
Nice.
They're both really good hats, but they will not be there too much longer.
Yep. And thank you for everyone for subscribing, as usual. Our kings and queens.
And yes. Anyway, any of these titles enticing to you?
These Warner Brothers titles? Dude, I'm hyped on Dune. I love Dune. I didn't read the book because I don't read, but I love the first movie, the first version. But I love sci-fi, so you show me sci-fi anything, and I'm there. I like Timothée Chalamet. I like all the special effects that's been leaked.
I'm resistant to sci-fi, but I still like quite a bit of it. Like, I would declare myself anti-sci-fi, but I do like the X-Files.
Oh, fantastic. Did you watch Blade Runner 2, More Blade Runners?
I liked both Blade Runners. I thought they were both interesting movies, visually compelling, arresting.
I got caught some heat on Twitter when I declared Blade Runner 2 possibly better than Blade Runner 1 and maybe not discussed in the pantheon of all-time great movies, the KBB, because that movie is almost perfect. Not like this pod, but
This pod is perfect. Blade Runner 2, I found really forgettable. It looked cool, though.
what? Oh, come on. I thought it was sick. I even liked the weird water ending. It felt like they were floating in placenta.
Honestly, did not even remember that's how it ended.
I like the whole premise of robots and robots with feelings. So you got me at robots with feelings.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Speaking of robots with feelings, these monoliths that are appearing,
Shit.
like, is this art or commerce?
We don't know. It has to be art. But so in Utah, I believe the first monolith was discovered. It looked like, a movie prop, and it was silver, and it was the same dimensions as a sculptor would make. This guy named John McCracken, who shows at David's Warner Gallery here in New York, his estate. He's passed away, so he couldn't have done it himself. But there was immediate curiosity to see if his estate had done it, because he puts up these monoliths in places, and it doesn't take the same form. It's not from an alien, because you can see Phillips head screws in it, unless aliens have adapted our Phillips head screw technology. It's so funny how we assume aliens are more advanced than we are. What if they're less advanced than we are? We never think about that, right?
They're going to come down in like a ramshackle flying contraption where they have to pedal.
They
blow
have,
up in a Flintstones car.
yeah, they have like their weird bat wings crashing with holes in them. They're on pogo sticks. A horse and carriage, a wagon, not unlike Kyle Lowry.
They try to take over the planet with blunderbusses. It's like
Yeah.
single shot muzzles.
They're putting leeches on like knife wounds.
They're out there running pick and rolls on the court.
They're like, oh, Jordan, no one's better than Jordan. He's 6 for 6 in the finals.
Shoot a corner three. Okay, E.T., relax.
Okay, budget ET. So if this was aliens, it was a kind of pretty basic thing. It was awesome, but it was like a weird triangle. It looked cool. It was taken away, not mysteriously, by 4 dudes. I think the quote was amazing. It's like, if you put trash on private property, then we're just going to haul it away. They like knocked it over and just carted it off.
Good.
I mean, it was beautiful. I love this shit. Was it a Banksy? I don't know. It didn't have like a spray painted like crying little girl with a balloon. Yeah, I don't know.
I think I wasn't really irritated by it, like about the act itself. Cool. It was more that, like, another one is found. Yeah, because someone put it there.
Yeah.
So, in Romania,
Yeah.
so what?
I know. It's like Rudy Gobert is the first monolith in Utah, and then someone goes and drafts James Weissman.
Yeah, I just mean, oh, we're supposed to be surprised that there's more of them? Cool, someone's doing a thing. Got it.
Yeah. I mean, I love these things, and is this not the spice of life as you hear these horns, sirens, the drops?
I found the monolith really dull, but
Oh, come on.
I thought it was so boring. It's so boring.
Oh,
it's so boring.
But do you like modernist art? Like, does a monolith in a gallery get you going?
No.
See, I love that shit, but there you go, right? Like, it's not for everybody. It can't be a Banksy because, well, it still could, but Banksy doesn't make things like this. I love stupid stuff that looks like just a piece of metal, like Richard Serra, who's a little bit macho for me.
I have no beef with someone just creating a monolith or even putting them around the world. My problem is like the credulousness of the response instead of being like, oh, nice, do your thing.
Oh, I love all that weird speculation and hot takery about nothing, right? Isn't this what we love? I don't know. Isn't this close to what we love?
But this was so overtly what it was, right?
Well, in what term?
I mean, just someone sticking some art projects or around the world, like, cool.
A broke
Like,
ass
that's cool.
alien. That's who.
Well, I mean, that's true.
Yeah, an alien who maybe cannot afford a vaccine at the jump.
Yeah, I guess my thing was like the intentional gullibility about like where did it come from? What is it? It's a mystery. Like, guys, come on.
I mean, yeah, I hear you, but it's hard for me to get grouchy about people getting excited about artwork. I mean,
Yes, that makes sense. I'm not even grouchy about it. I'm just like, we're still talking Monolith, eh?
oh yeah, keep it going. I mean, it'll die out sort of like the Fleetwood Mac guy, but even I got grouchy about that Fleetwood Mac guy when he started doing like Lakers stuff and just like sipping other drinks and hanging out with Snoop Dogg. But all in all, he's pretty awesome.
I get it. Good for him.
That was clearly not just cranberry juice. He was having an adult cranberry drink, right?
Wow. I think he was going to work though.
Oh, my bad. I didn't know that part.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I also opted out of that discussion after the first video, which was charming.
It was very charming. But okay, but kind of like snobby, right? Because
The homeless Native American is a snob for drinking cranberry juice on a longboard.
but the reason it went viral is like he knows this song.
Yes.
And I'm like, of course he knows this song. It's a hit song.
Oh, okay. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
Anyway.
Like,
And he knows the lyrics.
how does he know this monstrously popular song?
Yeah. How does this man know about Fleetwood Mac?
Yeah, there's a weird, vaguely uncomfortable. I mean, and people do benefit from this uncomfortable. I guess I don't know if it's a stereotype is the word, but you'll see like it'd be like a YouTube show with like two young black guys, and they listen to like a Phil Collins.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah. I've
and then they
seen
like
some of those.
freak out and start celebrating, and people are like, "How cool is this?" I'm like,
There's an undercurrent of snobbiness there, right?
yeah, it's like, oh, they shouldn't know this, but look how them like being exposed to like this hit record for the first time. I don't know. There's something a little weird about it, and not to say that those kids aren't benefiting from it.
I love watching them.
They
Yeah.
may have heard that song a zillion times, and they're just hamming it up.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, but there's something weird about it.
I'm saying snobbiness is code for something else, but I'm not willing to go there quite. But the reason why
Same. I'm not villainizing anyone. I'm just saying there is something that's a little
It's
snobby.
Yeah.
That's the word.
like Utah is a snobby organization in the NBA. But the Boston Celtics are snobby. I saw that Fleetwood Mac video, and I thought it was really sweet, but it had not occurred to me to share it, and it went fucking viral. And I'm like, it feels a little gross, mostly fun, a little gross.
It was funny. There was that New Yorker cover that came out a few days ago. I forget the artist's name, but it's
Adrian Tomine.
I think that's it's a woman drinking a cocktail, sitting at a computer. I would say ostensibly on a virtual date,
Yeah.
looking very well put together, and on the ground there's like strewn gloves and takeout boxes,
A cat, a litter box.
litter box, or cabinets are open, clothing on the ground. It just full disarray that's not revealed, to whoever she's speaking with on the like she's hiding her phone beneath her desk.
Yeah.
And the same artist makes a lot of these sort of bittersweet or sad images. There's one of a couple on a bridge, fastening a locket as a representation of their enduring love, and you see behind them walking up someone with like lock clippers, taking them all off
Right.
behind them.
He is the O. Henry of covers.
Exactly, yes.
He's awesome.
The gift of the Morai.
Optic Nerve was like one of my favorite comic books back in the day. So he did that. I like his drawings. I like his colors, but is this related to the Monolith or?
Oh yeah,
Fleetwood
so
Mac?
I bring this up, sort of the uncomfortable part, because I saw it and I was like, that is exactly like that cartoon, like bitch, you live like this. But being a white dude, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna have to not post anything about that. I mean, it was the obvious, like there was a joke to be made there, like, not for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit this one out.
And then I saw like an hour later, someone put it up, and it ended up going. And it's someone that I
Yeah.
know, and it went viral, and it had like 200,000 like likes, and I was like, it was right there for the taking. But you know what? Not my meme to make.
And good thing Twitter doesn't pay anybody for producing this amazing content on their platform. Like not a dime. You keep this whole thing alive. It's a publicly traded company, and we don't get anything.
I know that guy. What was your reward? I don't know, like
25.
35 followers.
Yeah, I
So
know.
I can give
And
them
what
some
does
more
that
free
get you?
content.
I was like, oh, is that kind of
Oh,
sweet?
nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. It gives me nothing at all. Just more incentive to create content.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you have to give people less gruel.
Always less gruel, always a smaller cage, always a higher speed internet connection.
The cage only gets smaller.
Yeah, the gruel only gets tinier. And the internet only gets faster. 5G, baby.
The cage will continue to shrink until morale improves.
How was your Spotify rap? Talking about, I'm trying to figure. Talking about
Virality.
virality, wrapping a burrito around everything, including your New Yorker cover takes. How was your Spotify rap?
There's some years when I'm kind of happy about the results. And it checks out. I'm like, yeah, that's true. I was really going on.
Fleetwood Mac, check. Yeah.
I was listening to Phil Collins and freaking out when the drum solo hit.
It's a good drum solo.
But great drum solo. Just makes me think of being in Miami Heat Day 1.
Only.
Cruising with Crockett and Tubbs over Biscayne. You love to see it.
With sandwichery.
Yeah. Right now we're missing Phantom Basel.
Yeah, did our homies go? Is Kat Marnell down in Miami? She threatened to host an amazing Basel week.
She is there. She
Amazing.
apparently went to a super spreader last night, so let's try to get her.
No.
Let's try to get her
Stay safe, Kat.
on the show to give a Phantom Boz
Absolutely.
update.
The Boz Goss.
Oh yeah. So anyway, Spotify Wrapped. This year's been disorienting for everyone. I didn't look at my list and say these were my guys. It all made sense, but my number one was J.J. Cale.
Oh,
Number one.
an originalist. I see.
Weird.
Ah, solid.
I liked a couple of his songs, listened to him a lot, and then played, I guess a few of his albums. Maybe they were, I don't know.
Do you play
I'm
J.J.
like,
Cale as you walk around in your hokas making one pot meals?
Sometimes. Again, it was just a weird one. I'm like, I definitely listened to a couple of his songs a lot. I listened to some of his albums, checked them out. But it wasn't like, the year of J.J. Cale.
2020.
Yeah, it just didn't resonate. Number two was Pop Smoke. That made sense.
Fantastic.
Three
Disappointing
was-
second album.
Didn't love it, but I listened to a lot of Pop Smoke overall.
Hells yeah.
I mean, I would say it was mostly not off the new album at all.
I know. The streets didn't love that one.
It's mostly Christopher Walken. Lil Baby, third.
My favorite record of the year, for sure.
Little Uzi, fourth.
King.
Astrid Gilberto, five. Again, don't even remember throwing it on. Somehow I listened to it a ton.
Is it small sample size? Like, when you say a ton, you mean 100 times or 1,000 times? I don't know, or 10
Don't know.
times.
I think this list overall is a result of me not really listening to that many albums and just kind of making playlists with songs that I like, and then just going back to them. Because I really don't remember listening to like Astrid Gilberto more than 3 times. But maybe I just put on the album and it went into like the next album after that, and even a couple, like 100 Gilberto songs puts you number 5.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I saw someone on Twitter, and I think I read this right. By accident, they had checked out a Super Mario Brothers like video game song and left it on repeat, and it messed up his entire algorithm. So he just gets fed like video game kids music, which is incredible. And some of that music is remember when video game 8-bit music was a thing? Malcolm McLaren wrote an article about it for Art Forum. Like people were doing
What were we calling
like
it? Chipcore or something?
yeah, they were like
Chip something.
Yeah, I forgot what the exact name for it was, but I remember seeing some shows where people were Dr. Game Boys and kind of play those. And I really love that stuff because I love like vocoding and anything striking a major chord. So I thought that was going to be a thing, and it wasn't a thing.
That sound is kind of reflected in a lot of the production that like Playboy Cardi uses.
Love it. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that's why I like it so much. It reminds me specifically of that like early 2010s, like very glitchy, as you said, 8-bit sound. It's odd. Even like, I forget all the groups I used to listen to. I don't know, time, that era doesn't exist, 2010. No one knows what happened.
No one knows.
I do view Cardi as like, or at least the production he chooses as a kind of offshoot of that. He might put a new album out at some point.
Yeah, he's just rumors.
He won't do it.
But I love that Little Baby record, man. It is so dark and melodic and weird and emo. I fucking love that record, man. Nonstop.
He kind of captured the same, I guess, space as Kodak Black in that way. Like they both are moody. They talk a lot of shit, but it's also sort of disconsolate. Is that the word I'm looking for? Like there's a sadness to even their boastfulness.
For sure. And even with that Homer Simpson ass album cover for My Turn, which is like him looking at the stars, when Homer's on the car looking at the stars. But
it's also just the quality of their voice.
Yeah, he's just good, and I all the production kind of snaps back to like a catchy melody that's a major chord, a little vibe, and I just love it. I think it's like, this is kind of out there. It's like a less edgy, more like rap way I feel about FKA Twigs, who had that like simmering, low bassy, like gothy production.
Well, there's something about Lil Baby and Kodak where they're able to access a fragility because their voice has like a thinness to it that almost feels pained.
Yeah, true.
Which you just don't get from like Rick Ross.
Yeah. And like I mean, I thought that was the best record of the year. I'm on Apple, so I don't have Spotify lists like some people, but it would have to be like the top would be Lil Baby, and then I don't know if you listen to these records, like Phoebe Bridgers and Haim put out 2 beasts of records this year, I thought, which didn't make many top lists, but
I mean, if it's not JJ Cale.
I mean, Phoebe Bridgers was well loved. Haim, I think, is like, people don't think about them the way they used to when they came out with that kind of perfect debut record, but their third record is really good. I really like it. Rostam, friend of the pod, produced it from Vampire Weekend, formerly of Vampire Weekend.
Oh, well, there
Helped
you go.
produce it. Yeah.
You know, we give Boston a hard time.
Do we?
We do.
Do we call a spade a spade?
I think we give Boston a little bit. We might call a shamrock a shamrock.
No shenanigans here. It is just a shamrock.
No shenanigans right now. There's going to be a grand experiment in the Beantown. Like, I know they get knocked for being this sort of prejudicial community.
Does the experiment involve a taco, as in Taco Fall?
No, they're not there yet. They're going to try some ethnic food, though. And we'll see if it works. I know it's aggressive, but it's called Pizzaoki. It's opening in Boston. It is DJ Steve Aoki, your guy, your
My dude,
man's,
Alliance.
and them. He is opening a pizza place with, I believe it's
Oh, Wahlberg?
herb-infused crust, I think was the description. But they're going to do it. They're going to try to eat Steve Aoki pizza in the Beantown. Will this work?
Wait, when you say herb infused crust, you mean magic herbs or like basil? Does it get you high
No.
at AF? No? Okay. That would be fun and dangerous. But wow.
They're going for it.
BP strikes again, Big Pizza. While other fledgling pizza shops are wounded from the coronavirus, Big Pizza swoops in and puts their flag everywhere.
Here comes Steve Aoki.
Is there a point of view? Is there like mayonnaise on this pizza? Is it like Japanese influence? Is it just ethnically Italian?
I told you it's herbs in the crust. That's the gimmick.
That is the gimmick. Are the Wahlburgers going to be paying a visit to Steve Aoki's house late at night?
Oh, I'm just getting some updates off the transom. It appears it's been burned down.
Yeah. He's limping because of a skateboarding accident. He jumped off the stage, crowd surfed, and pulled his Achilles tendon.
Best of luck, Steve. Okay, so actual basketball talk. There was a blockbuster.
Yeah, Ed Davis. It was huge.
So Russell Westbrook, former MVP, was traded for John Wall, who is a fantastic multi-time All-Star who has been on the shelf for 2 years straight following injuries.
Crazy.
They both make an outrageous amount of money. Not
Underpaid, but in terms of the cap.
but
yeah.
in terms of how much they're allowed to be paid, they make the most that you could for when they sign those contracts. They were swapped for each other. There was a draft pick involved that has some fairly heavy
Complicated,
protections,
yeah.
so it doesn't really even make much sense to discuss. So it's really just Westbrook for John Wall. Do you have any initial thoughts about this deal in terms of what it means for either team?
I was more happy for the Wizards. I think Russ. I'm a pro Russ guy a little bit because I think he's been maligned. I feel like the people who hate him now are a couple years behind. Now he's still a good player. Of course, he's inefficient in ways. So I think I'm really excited about that Wizards roster, man. They don't have a chance of winning, but let's see. He's going to get paired with. They kept Bradley Beal, which is fun. Bertans, your boy, the best Latvian player in the NBA. Your boy Thomas Bryant. Who am I? Ryu Hachimura is cool. Your boy Denny Avdia. This is awesome.
My guy Mo Wagner.
Mo Wagner is still on that team. Awesome.
I think he is, right?
Yeah, this is fun, man. Like, I spoke to a couple of my Wizards inside sources, and they're happy. They're sad that John Wall left because they love John Wall, but we don't know what he's going to be, and the track record of this Achilles injury is not great.
This trade does not really make sense from Houston's perspective to me. I know there was a bit of talk that they saved a couple $100,000 in the deal, but maybe there's a little motivation there, but John Wall presents a lot of the same problems that Russell Westbrook does. Ball domination, lack of outside shooting. Wall's improved in that regard, but again, he's coming back from a really serious injury. He hasn't played in 2 years. The idea that he would be better than Westbrook strikes me as, like, impossible.
I agree.
Like, impossible. He wasn't as good as Westbrook to begin with, and is coming off a terrible injury.
Yep.
And I really like John Wall. I think he's underrated. He is not the greatest point guard, but he's one of the most fun players to watch too. I consider myself a huge John Wall fan.
Very lovable dude too.
I mean, you are in the same gang as him, so.
I wish I could
Fongs.
dance as good.
But look, he was an extraordinarily cool player. I just don't know if that's who Houston even thinks they're getting.
Yeah. Did Russ's was he like? Did he overstay his welcome? So they were kind of compromised.
Wasn't there that long.
I know, but did he overstay his welcome in that he declared he wanted a trade? So like bottoming out his value, basically. I mean,
No, I don't think that was the case at all.
because I think that return was kind of lousy.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it had anything to do with, oh, we got to trade him so his market went down. I just think there was no market for him. If the Knicks were out, I don't think it had. I don't think it had. I think it had zero to do with anything about Russ in terms of him saying I want to leave or whatever.
Oh,
I think people were just disinterested in what he brings to the table, and the teams who were likely to say, yeah, give it a whirl, just opted out. You know, like Charlotte and New York were the two teams that were rumored. The Knicks probably never were. They
don't
probably
have
just
enough. I would have loved that, but
well, I mean, I don't know if John Wall has positive value. Like the Knicks probably could have just absorbed him into contract and given up Julius Randle into cap space, and given up Julius Randle, but Knicks didn't want him.
Yeah, the Knicks have a point of view which I love, but that's a different pod for a different time, which will be perfect. But to me, I read this as them selling Russ a little at a discount, just to do something. And I think that egg casserole, that quiche with no crust over in Houston, will regret this probably. That Achilles injury is really, really tough, man. And John Wall will be 29, which isn't young. I mean, it's not old, but it's not young.
He's already 30.
Is he already 30? I thought he was 29. Anyway. Oh, yeah. Fuck. Anyway. People talk about the pairing of him and James Harden together as like, you have a ball stopper. What are you going to do with John Wall? We're not even to that point. Can John Wall play is what we have to see first.
I agree.
Yeah, nothing is on the table with John Wall until we can see him actually run and cut, right?
I mean, he came back and played in 2019 for... I mean, it's crazy. I mean, his injuries have been so bad. You look at 2018, he played 1,400 minutes. 2019, he played 1,100 minutes.
Yeah.
Then he didn't play at all last season. The guy just has not played basketball since 2017 when he was really good. But he was also 26 and before an Achilles injury and a knee injury.
Man, I really like John Wall, but like I'll be really surprised if he isn't. I wouldn't be surprised if he was in his Spurs McDice stage of his career where he can like contribute and we love him for it,
He's also not exactly the kind of player that you believe would age that gracefully. He's a dude who's a 32% three-point shooter for his career. He's never been that efficient.
Yeah.
A lot of his value was getting to the foul line, especially very early in his career. He went a ton. But other than that, he's never been efficient. I don't really know right now, with efficiency being such a predominant part of NBA focus, how John Wall really becomes a fantastic offensive player unless he has the ball in his hands all the time and is passing all the time and creating shots for teammates, which you already have James Harden to do, at least for the time being.
And there's grumblings that this might be, or there's whispers that this might be a precursor to them moving James Harden. Yeah. I just don't see a trade partner that can match up with something that valuable, a player that valuable. But there's been chatter that this is just the Furtada man, kind of his first step into cutting all of his losses.
I don't really know why you do this deal other than the reason you said, because you want to do something.
Yeah, men of action.
Oh, I'm a shark.
Yeah.
Can't stop moving.
Yeah.
Better trade Westbrook for a guy who hasn't played in 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he got enough for Westbrook, but I don't know what was out there. I would have just kept him.
Same, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything out there. The Knicks and Charlotte were not in the Russell business. And then you look around and you say, well, who can absorb $40 million plus per season and is down to do that for the next 3 or 4 years?
Yeah.
But what team wants to take on that commitment? A contender doesn't. A team that's rebuilding doesn't. it really narrows you down to teams that are in that fuzzy area of saying, we're kind of shitty, but we'd like to be better. And Charlotte was one of the few, and they decided to go with Gordon Hayward. You know, they're kind of the only team that said, we're lousy, but we just want to make the eighth seed. We want to play in this season.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
I mean, it's interesting because they are still in purgatory, but I love their young players. So to me, they're not deeply entrenched in like this very boring sleepy time bear kind of vibe. This team has some pep in it now.
Atlanta was another team that sort of had the same policy, and they weren't interested in Westbrook because they have Trae Young, but they went and spent money on older players because they want to win some games. I thought Orlando made sense for Russ.
You mean
that to me
yeah.
would have been a reasonable trade partner. They've kind of maxed out this group.
Aaron
Jonathan
Gordon
Isaac
was rumored to be available.
He's a good player, but not a real difference maker. Fournier is who he is. I just don't see a ton of upside for that kind of they're young-ish dudes, the Gordons, the Fourniers.
I like Isaac still on the court.
Terrence
I think
Ross.
Isaac's injury is potentially career-threatening or career-altering, but I still like him as a player on the court.
Yeah, I think he's an intoxicating talent on the court, but he's had these kind of injuries now for several seasons.
I know, man.
But I look at that team like Vooch is 30. Give him a star. Let him try to win some games. And Westbrook would have made sense because Vooch is a good shooter, and Mo Bamba can shoot. So your bigs can be out of the paint. Aaron Gordon can shoot if he stayed on the team. I thought that seemed like an opportunity where adding an unstable element like Russ potentially could have taken a team that was, I would say, and I'm not looking at the numbers right now, but in the bottom quarter or third of the league in offense, and potentially like raised the ceiling on how good they could be offensively.
But if you were an egg tart, who would you ask for from Orlando? The price is kind of high, right? Because like we say, John Wall has all these question marks, but I bet you the Furtado man thinks that's a nice return. They would ask for Aaron Gordon and maybe Vooch, right? Like Vooch would be going the other way on that trade.
Right. I mean, you wouldn't do that if you were Orlando, but
No.
I do think Vooch has put in enough time there, and it's become an all-star and
He's nice.
one of the better players in Orlando Magic history at this point. Like he deserves to play with a good teammate.
I totally agree. And that is Markelle Fultz.
I don't know. I do think there is something to that. Like, come on, Vooch has given you his career. He's a really good player. He's done everything asked of him.
He's changed his game. He started shooting threes. He's adapted to the modern NBA.
Became a better defender. He's done what he was
good.
supposed to do. Good player.
Yeah.
Like let him be frustrated with Westbrook and then say, "Hey, we did what we could."
I am frustrated with the chatter around Westbrook, not because it feels so arbitrary. He had a wonky season last season, so his numbers don't really reflect it. But I think he's still a good player. He's not that different than the triple-double Russ. Oklahoma City manufactured those triple-doubles, and Houston did not. And we knew he was going to be inefficient, and everyone's like, I told you he wouldn't age well. I'm like, well, he's the same thing, but the game has changed, and maybe that's their point. But Russ is still a value, and he is overpaid, but if you have the money, Russ is a good player.
I would say that Russ is underrated at this point.
I agree.
And we talk about this shit all the time, is that the ability to put shooters at every position makes someone like Russ more valuable, not less.
Yeah, totally.
When you have a Capella, it's a problem because that means you have two non-shooters on the floor, but neither of them are on the ball.
Yeah.
And that creates some spacing issues. But when they swapped out Capella and they ended up putting
Lord Covington.
Lord Cov and your guy PJ Tucker,
I love him.
as the ostensible front court, all of a sudden Russ was phenomenal. He was absolutely phenomenal. I don't think people know how good he was in the second half of last year. He had He was averaging 27.5 points, 6.7 turnovers, 6.4 assists.
Wait,
True
6.7 turnovers?
I'm sorry, I misspoke. Rebounds.
Nice.
27.5, 7.6, 6.4.
That's an all-star. Instant all-star.
Great.
Yeah.
But he also had a true shooting percentage of 56%. So, I mean, he wasn't even below average.
Yeah.
He was right at average. Again, that's not like an inefficient player. That's a really good player. But he also got COVID, and then he sucked.
Yeah, and this is just like, it's par for the course. He won a couple MVPs, and then we got tired of him. There was fatigue, like LeBron fatigue. LeBron saying like, oh, this guy has my Defensive Player of the Year award. He's right, because LeBron probably should get DPOY and MVP every year, right? But it's just like this fatigue that we talk about players like Russ in this way, being like, well, he ain't what he used to be. I'm like, he's exactly what he used to be. He hasn't appreciated yet. He's still doing those triple-double things.
So I like the Washington team. I don't think they'll defend for shit, but I do like the team. I think they will be able to score a lot. I think you can put a bunch of shooters on the floor, let Russ push the tempo.
Bertans, Beal, that would be fun.
But
Denny cannot shoot worth shit.
But it is a terrible, terrible defensive team.
Thomas
Terrible,
Bryant, no.
Terrible. He's mediocre, long arms, Rochester native, so he's going to play hard, plays with respect.
They call him the junk plate.
But, Wagner's a good shooter, but undersized, and all he does is flop.
But
Bertans can't defend. All he does is flop. Beal is one of the worst defenders in the NBA.
But Russ himself is pretty good.
He's okay. He's good at jumping passing lanes, but overall, kind of a shitty defender, too.
He's
Not, he works.
Yeah,
He's athletic.
He's had good defensive seasons.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not that impressed by his defense as a team player. Again, he can steal the ball. He plays hard. He's okay, on point of attack, like decent. But I would not call him a strong defender. So I just think that entire team, I look at it, I'm like, whoa, you don't have anyone who can defend at all. Like, you're going to score 130 points and give up 135. But cool, that's fun. I'm into it. I want to watch that team. Mm-hmm. I think them and the Hawks should just play every night.
Those are some fun teams, man. I can't wait for the season.
165 to 152. Run it back.
Is Isaiah Thomas a free agent, or is he still... Where is Isaiah Thomas?
Did anyone give him a chance? No, right?
Not yet. That's annoying. Yeah, I don't know. I really like the Wizards. I'm happy for that fan base because the Beal Wall combo is so awesome. I love John Wall, but it was getting a little to that point where I'm like, if you can get anything for Wall, you should do it. And getting a return in Russ is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm with it. I don't like it for Houston at all. I still don't know what they're doing.
Hate it for Houston.
I presume that they're going to end up making a bad Harden trade.
You think?
I just don't know what their plan is. It seems at this point, whoever Morey left the team in, I believe that person is probably capable.
For sure.
But I don't believe that the impact of an owner like the Frittata King with a GM that has total inexperience actually running a team could be pretty bad. You might have a GM who has no real clout, is happy just to have his first general manager job, and you've got the souffle calling the shots.
Wow. Savory egg dish pulling the strings. You hate to see it.
You despise to dine upon it as a breakfast treat.
Well, it was refreshing to see a trade. It was not a blockbuster, but so people considered it that, because we've had an off season that was nice, but a lot of players re-signed, and so a lot of players stayed put. Predictably, right? These are rookie extensions. Mm-hmm. We saw Tatum stay in Boston. We saw De'Aaron Fox get paid to team up with Halliburton for the long run in Sacramento. That was kind of cool. We saw your boy Brandon Ingram, the OG wet noodle, signed for big money in New Orleans. Bam Adebayo, King in Miami day one. A all these guys are wonderful NBA players, and they got paid. How do you feel about their teams moving forward?
I'm glad these guys secured the bags.
They did.
You know, my feelings about all these guys are really similar. There is to me, a fairly narrow spectrum on this group. None of them, to me, is a superstar.
Donovan Mitchell, Utah, is among these.
Yeah, Tatum, Ingram, Fox, Mitchell, Bam. I don't think any of them are superstars. I don't think any of them are good enough to single-handedly build a team around that will have any chance of major success. But they're all too good to just let walk.
You have to sign them. You have no choice.
I think Fox is the closest one to being debatable, and still,
Sacramento
you just got to
has
sign
to
him.
keep. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and one thing to these teams' credit also is that this isn't the same max as a Tobias Harris or a Westbrook or a John Wall. Mm-hmm. You know, the money is getting up there because the cap has kept growing, but these are the sort of mini max for players who are after their fourth year. So they are well paid for sure, but they aren't just outlandish contracts by cap standards.
There's space for two other max contracts beside them, and as if the world revolves around the Knicks' son, I'm happy to see this because I don't see any of them contending with these players. And you know, Jamal Murray signed a really big contract maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago, a year ago, and they already have a Jokic there, so that kind of was more of a threat, I think, to compete for an NBA championship. And these teams have, to your point, they had to do it. I think Utah and Sacramento are relieved that they kept their young players. And of course, to your point, rookie extensions, when you're good, always get signed. But I think they're very pleased, you know? And I don't see those players as standalone guys, and they're good enough to take their teams out of high lottery picks. So you have a threat of them creating a purgatory situation for their teams.
Yeah, I mean, this is how it works. You know, there are only 10, 15 guys in the entire NBA
I know, man.
who you could legitimately call a building block.
Yeah.
Then you have a bunch of guys that you're just trying to combine into a team that makes sense. You know, none of these guys are Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons or LeBron James or Anthony Davis or James Harden or Luka Doncic. Mm-hmm. None of these guys are fulcrums.
Yeah.
Sorry, I take it back. Tatum is a building block. Just stop.
Okay.
There's a guy outside. He says he's from Pizzaioki. I don't know what that is. He's got a bean platter for me.
He's around 3'5" with a green top hat.
Says he's got a sheet pizza.
I mean, the Bam signing is interesting because we would think Jimmy Butler is one of those 15 guys, but he's not really. He had a great bub run. He's awesome. He's completely awesome.
I would put Jimmy
He's
around
close.
the top 15.
Yeah.
I think, but I'm a huge Jimmy Butler fan. But I think he's around top 15.
He's
but I
one of
also
those
think
guys.
there's 25 players who are around top 15.
Yes. And to me, he's on the cusp. If he stayed in Philly, he'd be the third best player in Philly. But I think Bam signing was great, and it's interesting because I believe it kind of takes them out of the Giannis sweepstakes, without moving a few pieces around.
Hard to say. But they could also trade Bam.
That it makes these players more tradable in a way.
Also, Bam, but no one has talked about this. That Bam and Giannis don't work together at all.
They might not.
They don't.
Yeah. I mean, if they don't change, they won't. But these guys are young players who are changing.
Well, sure, one of them might be a good 3-point shooter, but I don't think Bam will ever be a reliable enough 3-point shooter that people won't just leave him. Like they're basically very similar guys, except Bam is more of a guy who's in the pick and roll can catch lobs, and Giannis is more of like an ISO post scorer. Yeah. But I just don't see them being a combination that works together at all. If I'm, in the Miami's position, I would much rather trade Bam if you think Giannis is coming there for another part that would work together. But if we were going to rate these guys, I put Bam at the top of them. You know, the ones who just signed an extension. I think Bam is the best of that group. I think Bam's awesome. I just think specifically him and Giannis. I don't think Giannis would work with Zion. I don't think Giannis would work with Ben Simmons. I don't think Giannis would work with Russell Westbrook. There are a handful of, or Rudy Gobert. There are a number of stars in the league who can't shoot. They just happen to be two of them.
And I think, while that's true, I think when a Giannis becomes available and he chooses your team, you just sign him and figure it out later. He's that big of a talent, reigning MVP. So if he calls Pat Riley, like, I want to take my talents to Sandwichery, you're like, okay, we'll take you and figure it out later. He knows Bam and him aren't a perfect fit, but it's an embarrassment of a kind of riches.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying in that situation, I think Bam would ultimately have to get moved. So signing him to a long contract now doesn't really matter. That's good.
Yeah.
Like, anyone who will trade you for Bam wants to have Bam locked down for the next 4 years.
If you made Bam available, I think 28 NBA teams and one non-NBA team would be interested.
Sure, yeah. And, that's the thing about all these contracts, I would say. These players are all good enough that you're not going to get stuck.
No, those are good players.
With Mitchell Robinson or Brandon Ingram or even De'Aaron Fox. They are good enough that other people would be willing to pay them that money. And that's kind of I think the saving grace of these early mini-max contracts is even someone like Enes Kanter got traded 2 or 3 times when he was on one of these because it's not that much money comparatively. It's tougher to move a Tobias Harris, who might be almost as good as a Brandon Ingram or as good as a De'Aaron Fox, but he just makes more money and he doesn't have upside.
Yes, it's the upside. Because Brandon Ingram made a huge leap when he got out of that relegated, or the asterisk city. He finally found his sea legs.
How would you rank these 5?
Bam 1, Donovan Mitchell, Tatum later. It's Bam and then the other 4, right? I like Bam, Ingram, and the other 3. I really like Ingram's length and potential to be a defender, but his stats with Zion Williamson were kind of wonky, so we have to see that again. Is he that much of an impressionable type of player where he just like cannot find his game around certain guys? Like, that is the worry, right?
I mean, that's the hazard of being, a strand of damp linguine.
It's like a fettuccine
you're malleable.
Who left al dente 2 minutes ago, 2 solid minutes ago.
He's not like a tough rigatoni.
I mean, it's interesting. So my thought is, like, these players come up for these mini maxes, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will be up for his soon, and these are all picks that these teams hit on. I think they are all blockbuster successes draft wise. If you can draft a Donovan Mitchell, you are hyped, right? But then you pay them and you're glad, and they're always movable for sure. But let's say you perceive them as your cornerstone. Like, if we can keep Mitchell and Gobert, that Utah monolith, on our team, we have 6 years of relevancy, 5 years of relevancy. It's tough because the reason I love GMs like Morey so much is that they swing for the fences. And there's a way to swing for the fences sustainably. If no other team is, not enough teams are doing the same thing. And moving the story further a year is a way to do it. And these teams have no choice but to extend these guys and play them and figure it out.
I find these by far the least odious of max contracts.
Yeah.
Because they're less, because they have upside, because they're movable. And look, if I'm Utah and I say, I think a couple of seasons we've been close to good enough to win a title. We haven't done that. We haven't made that great run in the playoffs, but we've had some really good defenses.
It's a lunch pail doing Ingles doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah, no, there was that one year, and I think 2 or 3 seasons ago, they had like the best net rating after the All-Star break, the best record. They were really cruising, and it didn't work out for them. But Utah has put together some very legitimately tough teams. yeah, if Donovan Mitchell was swapped out for a better player, that would benefit the team. It's not on the table.
Yep.
If it was on the table, they would do it.
Yeah.
But it's not on the table.
Yeah.
So you're like, cool, we'll pay Donovan Mitchell. And I think what you're also doing in these kind of situations is you're buying some time. Maybe one of these young guys that we draft turns into something. What if we get lucky? You probably could have made a similar argument after a couple of years of Steph and Clay if Draymond hadn't been in that system. Like, look, I mean, these guys are good, but they're both shooters. Why don't they trade one of them for a big man? How is this going to work? It's a little stagnant. That might have happened. But they got Dre, a second-round pick who became the linchpin for a really progressive offensive/defensive system because he was a basketball genius.
They say
So,
he's almost as good
if
as
you're
Amari
Utah-
Stoudemire. Right.
So if you're Utah, you're like, you know what? Maybe someone will become available. Maybe we can sign that guy. Maybe we can draft that guy. Whatever. Let's just put ourselves in position that if we get lucky, maybe win 2 rings. It's possible.
It's possible.
It's possible. LeBron's got to retire at some point. Who's the best team in the West then? Maybe Kawhi goes and plays for the Knicks along with Giannis. Like, you're in the mix, and it's
Yeah.
some
Maybe.
Rumsfeld
Yeah.
shit, right? It's like you go to the war with the team you have, or whatever it is. You go to war with the army you have.
Yeah.
Like you can't turn Donovan Mitchell into a better player.
Right. It's like real
Can't
estate.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You just move laterally. What are the New Orleans Pelicans going to do with Lonzo Ball? I believe December 20th is when they have to decide what to do with him.
This is going to be his 4th season, so they can do nothing.
I believe, I forget what triggers on December 20th, but they have a deadline to maybe offer him a offer sheet.
No, I think it's an extension, right?
Is it the extension?
Yeah, I would assume they won't give him they'll lowball him on an extension, hope he takes it, and then when he's a free agent, they'll see what other teams offer and then match it.
Yeah, I am hoping, or do they match it? I don't know what the perception of Lonzo Ball in the league is. It seems to be a large spectrum, but I am secretly.
Well, I mean, they would consider what the money was, and then they would match it or not. But if I'm them right now, I'm offering him a lowball extension. Like, I root for Lonzo. I think Lonzo is really talented.
Yeah.
But if I'm the Pelicans, I'm like, hey, we'll give you $12 million a year for 4 years.
That's what I
3
thought,
years,
12 to 15.
and just hope he takes it, because if he has a really good season, maybe as a restricted free agent, you'll get a team like the Knicks. Like,
That's what I was thinking.
all right, we'll give you 17, and then
Yep.
you're like, do we want to do that? So I don't know.
Right.
I really am a fan of his game, and I think he showed a lot in terms of shooting last season to make me believe that he can be a pretty good high volume 3-point shooter.
Yeah. Yeah, his shooting has been erratic in a short period, so there's worry that it doesn't get better. It kind of fluctuates up and down. But, I respect LeVar Ball so much, and there's been chatter of him being like this amazing father and like NBA whisperer, which he is. He's got 2.5 kids in the NBA. I don't believe that LiAngelo contract. I don't think he's going to make the team, but it's non-guaranteed for 1 year. But I hope he's like, yo, I wanted LaMelo in New York, but maybe I can get Lonzo in New York. And he's talking to World Wide West and being like, let's try to make this happen. Will you guys offer 17? And World Wide West is like, we're prepared to do that. And it's there's some shenanigans going on, because I have to think that LeVar wants his sons to play in New York or LA, and he burned that LA bridge already.
I just don't think he has any choice at this point, because that's the conditions of being a restricted free agent.
Oh yeah, but to your scenario, I know you always side on it's not possible with this stuff, but to what you said a minute ago, I with there on that, like maybe the Pelicans are like 17, 18, 19, we got options at that point, so we'll let him go,
Yeah, that's totally possible. I mean, again, I'm a fan of Lonzo. He was someone that I thought Philly could have gone after.
Yeah, but that would put two non-shooters. Well, yeah, he's not quite a non-shooter, but
He's a good shooter. He's a good shooter. Like, the thing about him being a bad shooter is just weird, like college mythology. And I'm not saying that about you. I'm saying this thing of like, Lonzo can't shoot. Lonzo was a good shooter last year. He was good. Like, he can shoot. I don't know that he's going to be a consistent shooter from deep on a high level his whole career, but there's no way to say that Lonzo was not a good shooter last year. Like,
he was okay. He was 40% from the field, 37% from three, free throw 56%. So it's like
he can't shoot from the free throws, but I'm just saying, based on his last season, I mean, the guy shot 38% from three, and it was on a high volume. I mean, he shot
shooting 517. Yeah,
he is not a good scorer, but I'm saying the shooting part itself,
yeah.
I don't find that worrisome, because he took 400 threes last year and made 38% of them. He changed his shot. It looks fine now. It's not that abomination that when he came into the league.
Yeah.
He's got other problems. His ability to finish, his ability to score easy baskets.
Yep.
But to me, this thing of Lonzo, he's a non-shooter.
Yeah.
He's fine. He's fine.
His field goal percentage around the basket, 3 feet, was 21%.
I mean, just terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. And we saw how valuable that was in the playoffs, as Tyler Harrow was kind of like extraordinary at that. And just like, it really pays to have a guard who can finish.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the understatement, but like, it's really important for a guard to finish at the rim.
I mean, we hear all this talk about how great Drew Holiday is. Like, Drew Holiday is a worse shooter from deep than Lonzo Ball. He can just do other things better.
I like Drew Holiday, but that's another team that moved laterally, I think. The Bucks.
Wait. Are we getting into another Drew Holiday, Eric Bledsoe confrontation on Cookies Hoops?
They say Cookies Hoops day ones know this is where we always spiral out of control.
I don't know where it came from. I was triggered. I apologize, Andrew.
It's my fault. We're a team, and I was being more Drew Holiday than Eric Bledsoe, and I apologize.
Look, I'm glad we caught this, nipped it in the bud, and preserved at the perfect pause.
It was close,
I love cookies.
but it's perfect.
Ooh.
I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.